Sunday, January 14th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I want to talk about the banking dictatorship that we are under in the West, be it the United States, the UK, or Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and the fact that the reason we're under this dictatorship is that we let the bankers get away with bringing the system down in 2008 and then been bailed out. The governments bailed them out, and it doesn't matter what party it is, Labor or Democrats or Republican or Tories, they're all the same. We've been hijacked by the banking criminals. That, I will show you. I'm not saying criminals just for the hell of it. There is proof. They just haven't been jailed. They've paid a lot of fines. And the reason I'm doing this video this morning is because I went out to the refuse center, or the dump as they call it, to throw away some stuff from the garden that we picked up, leaves, and cleared the garden in the winter. And then I stopped to put some diesel in the car, and I saw a headline in the FT. And I never buy the FT. I personally think it's a voice piece for the bankers anyway. But I decided to buy it because I saw this headline. I'll show it to you. Right there. Bankers urge Downing Street to save Carillion. So what is Carillion? And why are the bankers urging Downing Street, which is basically a roundabout way of saying that the UK taxpayers should save Carillion? So I'll read here about the article. It says, one of the government's biggest contractors was fighting for survival last night after lenders to Carillion dismissed the company's rescue plan and urged Downing Street to intervene. And it goes to say, it uses the jobs card as well. The Wolverhampton-based construction and management group, which employs 43,000 people worldwide, including 19,000 in the UK, has been struggling to reverse its fortunes after racking up at least 900 million in debts and a 600 million pension deficit. And now for the good part, it goes on to say here, in its latest effort, a business plan presented to its banks on Wednesday, which are being coordinated by Barclays, Santander, Lloyds Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, and HSBC. All the usual suspects. I mean, RBS had to be bailed out, and it's still more than 2/3 owned by the taxpayer and has huge losses. Barclays, all the other ones, they would have gone under if the UK government hadn't basically backstopped 500 billion in debt of the banks, of which it keeps on off its balance sheet, by the way. And what about the 1 trillion in debt we've had to incur as a country since the 2008 crisis? The debt has gone exponential to save the bankers. So again, now they're urging Downing Street to save Carillion. Why are they so concerned about Carillion? And I have to give the FT credit because there's a section in the back of the paper called the Lex column. And the Lex column actually says at the end here, if privately held groups can take on Carillion's work, they should be allowed to do so. Creditors and investors in overstretched businesses must foot the bill for failure. So at least the Lex column in the FT is saying that, the government shouldn't be involved. But one thing that I noticed in the Lex column he talks about is this. It says, Carillion must find a way to rewrite off the bulk of its 925 million debt. This does not even account for a pension deficit of about 590 million. And it goes on to say, and that's what got me interested about the bankers. With minimal assets on its balance sheet, it has said it can raise about 300 million. just that sentence there, with minimal assets in its balance sheet. How? So who's giving, why did the banksters lend almost £1 billion to a company who has minimal assets? And why should the UK taxpayer be put on the hook for that? And I heard on the radio, actually coming back from the dump, that Whitehall, which is basically where the British civil service is based in London, Whitehall is talking to the directors and the people who run Carillion. And the other thing about Carillion, though, is that it runs a lot of the UK. It says here, and it's not just a construction company. It says here, the government's role is complicated by its reliance on Carillion for a range of services. The contractor maintains military bases, provides school meals, and is helping build some of the UK's highest profile public works project, including HS2 high-speed rail line. Well, this high-speed rail line is also another, gravy train project, because it's supposed to make it 20 minutes quicker to take a train from London to Birmingham or Manchester or in the north of England. Do we really need to save 20 minutes going up north to, nowadays in the age of Skype, internet, and Telegram, we can do business online. We don't have to go anywhere. I've done a lot of my sponsored videos, people calling from all over the world, and I haven't had to go there. And it's all gone smoothly. So why do we need billions of pounds pumped into a public project that is not necessary? That's the other point I wanted to make. And I had a look as well at the company, and it's very interesting because Philip Neville Green, so he is chairman of Carillion, all right? And I'll read about his background. It says here, Green is also chairman designate of Williams and Glyn, the UK challenger bank that is being divested from Royal Bank of Scotland, RBS, which is the bank that had to be nationalized in 2008 in order to save it by the tax, on the back of the UK taxpayer. And it says here as well, he advised the British Prime Minister David Cameron on issues such as corporate responsibility. And he also has one of these titles. He's a CBE. So it seems like all the people who behave badly and who do dodgy deals in this country have a title. If you don't have a title, you're actually honest, in my opinion. It just looks like that. So that's, the chairman of Carillion is Philip Green. And then the other thing that got me a bit hot under the collar, so to speak, was another story that's in the FT on the front page, and I hadn't noticed until maybe half an hour ago, and it's here. And I'll read, mortgage lenders shut the door on Bitcoin investors eyeing first property. So here's the headline, right? So, and it just goes on to say, with the price of virtual currency rising nearly 1,500% in the past year, investors have been cashing in their sudden windfalls to pay for deposits on new homes. But it's actually saying that the mortgage lenders who are part of these banksters, they're refusing to give these people a mortgage because they don't want to accept, their pounds that were earned through their, clever investment. If you put £2,000 in Bitcoin a few years ago, it is worth quite a bit. You can put something down. And why shouldn't they get a loan on that? And there's a comment here. Max Wild, a professional who made a six-figure sum investing in Bitcoin, said it was ludicrous, and that the color of my money might not be accepted. I agree with Max Wild. So they're, the bankers who have in the past I guess I can't say they're money launderers because they've been fined for alleged money laundering, but you put two and two together and you tell me what you think. So I'll start with HSBC. So this is from, and these are the people who are telling, you know, just normal run-of-the-mill people who made clever investments that they can't buy a home or get a mortgage. Maybe the advice to these people is to make enough money to buy it outright. But even then, if you come with cash, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna be funny about it. So that's why we are under a banking dictatorship. But let's go back to 2012. December 2012, HSBC pays record $1.9 billion fine to settle U.S. money laundering accusations. You know, we can't call HSBC a money launderer. And I remember the chairman of the bank at the time, I think Stephen Green, guess who he worked for later on after his bank was fined? Well, he was an advisor to David Cameron, the prime minister. So, and it says here, so that's from 2012. So these are the biggest, you know, the biggest money launderers, supposedly. I can't call them that for legal reasons. And then you get U.S. fines, HSBC, same bank again, $175 million for lax forex trading oversight. You'd think they would have learned, but no. This was September 2017. Another one, Barclays now. FCA fines Barclays £72 million for poor handling of financial crime risks. That's 2015. So these are the same people that are saying that they won't accept someone who did, you know, put a few £1,000 and now it's worth 40,000 and they won't accept his money. That's just ludicrous, as that guy said. Another one, and this is like from last year, UK to crack down on bank money laundering after reports of £65 billion Russian scam, city minister says. And I'll read the story here from The Independent. It says, HSBC, Barclays, RBS, Coutts, among those alleged to have transferred hundreds of millions of pounds of cash thought to be linked to criminals and corrupt officials. So there you have it. The bankers, they want to keep the small people under their thumb, you know, call them drug dealers, money launderers, but they are the, you know, allegedly the biggest money launderers. They've paid billions in fines because of money laundering accusations, and they're in control of the government. I think it's really important to keep an eye on this this story about Carillion, because we should not, UK taxpayers should not bail this company out. And I don't care if they employ, you know, 19,000 people here or 20,000 people abroad, or if their major contracts are for the UK government. I'm sorry, they should not be bailed out. And the Lex column actually this time agrees with me. The creditors, i.e., you know, the banks that are allegedly involved in money laundering and consider anyone who has Bitcoin a money launderer, they should pay for that. They were the ones that lent Carillion almost £1 billion, knowing that they had a huge pensions deficit, that they had no assets. So I don't see how it's fair and moral for the UK taxpayer to bail them out. And if the government does go ahead with this, yeah, it will just prove that we are under a banking dictatorship. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on steemit.com and on Twitter. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.